What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Gamescript. Tonight, we're going to be looking at the Arizona Cardinals versus the Los Angeles Chargers. They're playing in Arizona tonight, and it's going to be an interesting Monday night because we have two games. This is going to be the one that we focus on, though, for this show. I'm going to be putting out a two-gamer later on, and you can check that out on the YouTube channel. But tonight's game is going to be about J.K. Dobbins. Is he going to be the captain? He's going to be the most popular captain, but is that justified? We'll dig into it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Gamescript. And today I'm joined by Spread Astaire. We're going to break down this Arizona Cardinals versus Los Angeles Chargers game. We're looking at a 44.5 point total with Arizona as 1.5 point dogs at home. Normally, Spread, when we see these dogs at home, you tend to lean towards the dogs. But what are your thinking on this game tonight?
And that's why sports betting is fun, because you don't just stick to any particular formula. You have to know. It's like grammar. They always taught me to be a good writer. You need to learn the rules of grammar, and then you can break them. And I feel the same way about tonight, because I usually do like the home dog, but I have a feeling that this is I got a team with so many advantages here in the Los Angeles Chargers. This line is short to me. I'm going to get the better coach. I have the better quarterback. I believe that I have the better line play on both sides of the ball. So while I do understand that Arizona does play pretty well at home, which is surprising because it's not like the most wild, rowdy fan base, but if you look at the statistics, they have shown a nice home field advantage. I don't know if that's the Heat. I don't know if that's because Arizona is actually an underrated place for these players to hang out and have a good time. You know, we don't think of it like Las Vegas, but it is a lot of fun. But for whatever reason, Arizona's been really good at home over the last 4 or 5 years. There's just too many advantages, however, for the Los Angeles Chargers. And I do believe that behind the strength of their excellent coaching and their better quarterback play, they're going to get the win tonight.
Yeah, I think it's tough to go with the Cardinals, just watching how Murray's played, even when his team's at 100% this season. He's big knock on Murray this year is that he's been good with the opening drive, the scripted drive, but after that, everything falls apart for him. So it'll be interesting to see how they're able to, combat that. Make sure to hit that like button. I'm looking for 30 likes to put out a shorter video later on when I have more complete thoughts on this matchup and the best plays on Showdown. And make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm looking for 1,100 subscribers by the end of today. I'm at about 40 short of that right now. So if you hit subscribe, definitely appreciate that. You're going to want to subscribe anyways to get the alerts. You can sign up for alerts for when those shorter videos come out, or just when any videos come out, really. And, Spread, always glad to have him on. Spread does a great job of breaking down these games. I like having Spread on. He gives you a perspective of a professional bettor, taking a look at these games and just breaking down things that we might not think about on the DFS side. So I love getting Spread on here. And Spread, he's already analyzed this game on another show, right? Spread, is there something that you want to plug?
It's actually coming up. I'll be doing it. It'll probably already be done by the time we see this video, but I'll be jumping on at noon over on Fanspeak, the great channel started by Meg and her brother Steve to break this game down. But I think that's why we talked before, Simon. I think this is why I like Showdown so much, because I feel like the betting aspect translates the best to a Showdown game, because we're going to look at different scripts. And I've already gone through this to decide whether or not I want to lay the points or take the points or bet the over or bet the under. Whereas on the full main slate, I don't know if the betting matters as much. I feel like the full main slate, a lot of that is just taking advantage of the misprices due to the late scratches or the injuries. You grab a couple free squares and then you fill your lineup out. So I think being a bettor helps me a lot more for Showdown than it does the normal big Sunday main slate.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of betting perspective definitely helps with breaking down individual games, especially from a showdown perspective. Knowing which player props to focus on and stuff like that. All that is very helpful with these showdowns, especially. There's game theory involved in it too, obviously, but a lot of it is just kind of knowing the matchups and knowing like the mismatches and the injuries and all that kind of stuff that's going to help us out. And so we'll break down this game now. Spread, do you have a big picture overview apart from what you just mentioned?
All right. So just from what we've spoken about so far, you guys all know that I'm on the Chargers to win. But another reason that I was excited about to do this game with you, Simon, and not the other one, is I don't necessarily think that we know how they're going to get there. For example, in the Ravens game, if you like the Ravens to win, we know it's going to be Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers. We got a pretty good idea of who to target. On the Chargers, other than J.K. Dobbins, this could go any which way. I mean, we might want to use the Chargers defense. We might see some kicking here because we know that Harbaugh can be conservative. We're not going to see any of those crazy fourth down calls like we saw with Dan Campbell yesterday and the Detroit Lions going for it on his own 30 here or running the fake. So there's so many different ways that I can win this bet, but the Chargers get home. It's not completely obvious. So let's start. Do you want to start with the Chargers game script?
Yeah, let's do that because I want to get your thinking on direction as far as like which players you like and how you like the game script playing out.
All right. Well, of course, J.K. Dobbins is the obvious one, and we're not going to be on this show. Would you want to start with the J.K. Dobbins captain?
Yeah, we could do that.
We could go a different way. Actually, let's do the J.K. one first because that has to be. Unless you're single bulleting or really worried about your number of entries, you're going to have some exposure here. So be careful, though, right? Because this is going to be the popular build. Mm-hmm. So it could be one of those cases where you win and you're splitting it with 9 or 18 other people. So we'll build a couple, but I'm actually kind of more excited about the different builds because of the potential for uniqueness. So, all right. So Dobbins wins. We know that's going to be the Harbaugh special, right? The Chargers offensive line is dominating. They're controlling the time of possession, and they're giving a steady dose to J.K. Dobbins, who is by far the Chargers' best rusher. Our only concerns of him has been health. But fortunately, this is not a season long. This is only one game, so we're looking at it here. Who would we like to add here? For example, if we do that and the Chargers do get ahead, I kind of like running it back with Kyler right off the bat as our first flex. Now, I know we spent a lot of money, but assuming the Chargers do get ahead, especially if they get a double-digit lead, could be huge for Kyler, especially with the rushing. So let's throw Dobbins and Kyler in there, and this is kind of a chalky start, but I think it's a fun way to look at how we're going to break down this game. So with this chalky start, Simon, we're going to have to go for some other players that might not be as popular. Who are some of the players that are not at the top of this flex list that you think we can continue to build the lineup out with?
I think my favorite play is probably Simi Fehoko. Because it's looking like Quentin Johnson is going to be out in this one. Simi is only $1,200. He has an average, catch depth of catch is about 10 yards, and Justin Herbert is throwing the ball about average depth of target is about 8 yards. When we're talking about having his offensive line healthy, and we have Slater and Alt both back this week, so I think that is going to set up opportunity for Simi Fehoko. And I think really it's only going to take him to catch, like maybe 3 balls for him to pay off his salary, really. So if he's able to, get maybe 3 receptions for, let's say, about 40 yards or so, that's 7 points for him at $1,200. Really, we want him to break out. But I mean, if we're looking at that as maybe, a conservative estimate of what he can accomplish with Johnson out, I like Fehoko a lot.
All right. And the great thing about that now, Simon, is we can go back to the top. Because if we put him in here for only 1,200, we average 79.66, so about 8K per player left. So now by putting Fehoko in there, we can kind of go back to the top of this. So who would you think that we should run it back with? We talked right before we started recording this show how Lad McConkey is questionable. I want to put him in here now, just with a caveat that, guys, this, you can't set it and forget it. This is a true questionable, and you're going to have to keep abreast of the news. And if you're going to be busy tonight, you're at the kids' ball game, or you're, maybe you're not going to be able to do this build. But I'd like to throw McConkey in there right now. So now we have 8 left. Do we want Herbert in there or no?
I think if we have those two, we have 2 receivers in it. I think it makes sense to put Herbert in, but let's check out what he's been doing with the run heavy offense. He's really not cracking, like 14 DraftKings points. So I think that we could go with a guy like Harrison instead, who's only $1,000 more. Just to get the upside of Harrison, because all it takes is Harrison to get a couple receptions to rack up 100 yards, and that would make him optimal for showdown lineups tonight.
All right, so we put Harrison in there,
and that leaves us in a good spot, like 6,100 left.
Mm-hmm. So obviously we can't tell you the full lineup here, but what I'm looking at if I land here, Simon, is okay. Well, because we already have 2 Chargers receivers, even though I'm interested in Josh Palmer overall, I would leave him out here. I don't like Dortch, but I definitely think you can consider him in this build. However, with Harrison already being there, I'm not sure. I would probably go with Dicker, the Chargers defense, or Ryland. I would probably finish it out with one of those 3.
Yeah, I think Dicker makes a lot of sense because we don't have Herbert in this lineup. So I think that if we got 2 receivers, it's because they're moving the ball, with PPR points, and then maybe they're running it in for touchdowns with Dobbins at that point, or if they stall out, like in Justin Herbert can't convert on touchdowns, it's Dicker the kicker and J.K. Dobbins converting on those field goals and touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the fun way to build a chalky one, Simon.
Yeah.
But let's just say we're really gunning for first place, and we want to be unique. Let's start to look at some of these captain options that we could take here without Dobbins in there. So normally the quarterback is chalky. However, did you pull up projections? Did you know what Herbert's projected at as captain? Because I know from a fantasy perspective, he hasn't been performing this year, and I'm wondering if that's going to make him less popular. Would we have some semblance of uniqueness, or is it still going to be too chalky?
I'm looking at Herbert at 9% ownership. I think anything over, in that range might be too chalky for Herbert, given what his output's been so far this season. But I usually look at the 10% marker for whether or not they're going to be popular or not. 9 is right on the brink, but we could definitely try and build one out with Justin Herbert if you want to try that.
Let's try Herbert, and then we'll get real funky after that.
Okay.
So on this one, do we want to go McConkey again, or do we want to choose a different receiver to pair him with?
Let's see. I'd go with McConkey again. Like if we look at McConkey, he seems to be the obviously the favorite target there. He's hit over 6 targets in 4 out of 5 games. They're low depth of targets, obviously, because he hasn't been racking up a bunch of fantasy points. But maybe this is the game where we see him break out a little bit. Maybe this is a good opportunity for him to break out. I think if we did do him breaking out, we need to make sure that we're putting some firepower on the Cardinals side too, to keep it a competitive game.
All right, let's do that.
Get McConkey in there.
All right, so we got McConkey. So in almost all these Chargers builds, I'm running it back with Kyler.
Okay.
And the idea is the Chargers get out early, they get a double-digit lead, and Kyler's working against maybe a softer defense that's more concerned of playing against the clock than necessarily playing against the defense.
Right.
So let's throw him in here. And we did a little who's our other guy that you liked? Help me pronounce his name.
Fehoko.
I think with these expensive captain starts, he's just like I don't want to say free square, but we're gonna have to put him in there.
I think so.
To be able to afford the other players we want, right?
Yeah.
Because we've just taken two of the top quarterbacks. The question on the Herbert captain is, do we want Dobbins in here too?
One thing I'll say about Fehoko is, just keep an eye on his injury status. He is questionable, but I think he should be good to go. It looks like the whole team is questionable this week spread, like as far as their receivers. So, make sure to keep an eye on the inactives. Yeah.
Simon, can I say the only one that I really think is questionable is McConkey?
Okay. Cool.
I think Fajoko's going to play.
Cool.
I think McConkey's the only one that could potentially be scratched late.
Gotcha.
However, that's going to upset the apple cart altogether because we know that Quentin Johnston's out, and that will be a player that we're looking at. And a name that we have not mentioned yet, Simon. I don't see why they have this IR next to Chark's name.
He was practicing.
So you could throw Chark in there, and you know what? There might be a lot of players who see that IR and just skip right over him.
Has he officially been activated?
He's questionable for tonight's game, and he definitely he's not injured reserve. I don't know why it says IR next to his name.
Gotcha.
He's just as questionable as McConkey. That's what I will tell you. He could potentially sit, and I'm not saying like he's going to play for sure, but I'm just saying the IR next to his name might scare off a lot of people, and he could potentially be out there. And he's the player that when we were doing our best ball this summer, Simon, we thought that he had a great opportunity to be one of the top receivers in this offense. So I think if he's out there at only $3K, he could easily pay off that price tag.
And on top of that, obviously what we talked about earlier with Quentin Johnson being out, I think that would make you want to put him in instead of Fehoko or in addition to. I think I'd probably want to go with. I think those guys are a little redundant, so I'd probably want to go with one or the other.
Let's take out Fehoko this one, and we'll put Chark. Now we have two players left, but we have 7,500 each.
Yeah.
So we're not at all. On this one, let's go ahead and throw the Chargers defense in, and then we can let the people fill it off. But I'm not against the Chargers defense tonight. I think they have great opportunities for sacks. I think they have great opportunities for turnovers, whether it be through fumble recovery or through interception. But in this script that we're building with the Chargers getting that early lead, potential for Murray to put up a lot of statistics, but also potential for him to force it and make some mistakes. Or maybe they get out to the early lead by forcing a fumble on a running back, by forcing Kyler to scramble and fumble. So I like the Chargers defense in there, and you can pick anyone at that point.
Yeah.
Let's just have a fun conversation for the people here. Simon, a player that I might be higher on than Harrison to fill out this build is Trey McBride. Give me a quick breakdown from a fantasy perspective. We know from a betting perspective, it doesn't really matter who gets these targets. But I think there's a good chance that maybe McBride is the player that we want to target here and not Harrison. We see that against the Chargers tight ends. The Chiefs went over, had 13 targets on the tight end when they met, and the Raiders had 11 targets on the tight end. So teams in their division that know the Chargers defense well have said, hey, one of their weaknesses is that linebacker, is that safety, is their ability to cover the tight end. And who knows if they necessarily put James on McBride to shut him down. They might have him roaming more, in which case it could be potential for McBride. And from what we've seen so far, Simon, Kyler and McBride still have a lot more chemistry than Kyler and Harrison. I know that Harrison's a great prospect. I know he runs his routes well, and he's a great athlete. But it feels like McBride and Murray are still more in sync here. So I might finish this one off with McBride rather than Harrison. But in a lot of these builds, that's going to be the tough decision to make. Who would you rather have more exposure to tonight, McBride or Harrison?
So the thing with McBride is the Chargers play the most zone coverage in the league. And that is where, McBride's been targeted like on 28% of his routes, according to Rich Rebar. So, I mean, like that is, significant, like, and that would definitely give a good lean towards McBride. I can check real quick. Let me check a different source and see what the zone coverage is for Harrison. Harrison is being targeted at 35% against man. He's been targeted at only 18% against zone. Michael Wilson is interesting against zone too. He's getting a 17.4% target rate against zone coverage. Michael Wilson scored a touchdown last week, again, a zone coverage situation. So Michael Wilson's an interesting guy too against zone. I think the volume, though, if I'm going for volume and I'm looking for the best matchup against zone coverage, and this isn't to say that Marvin Harrison can't have a monster game, but if I needed a tiebreaker between Harrison and McBride, I would go McBride just because of that coverage advantage.
Yeah, and one thing that I've noted so far, I'd say from a fantasy perspective, Harrison's output's been pretty disappointing. He had the one big game in week 2 after not getting targeted at all in the opener, where he scored 2 or 3 touchdowns in the first half. But even then, Murray didn't go to him a lot after that. Of course, it was a blowout script. However, like I said, they just don't seem to have the chemistry yet. And I also wonder if there's some personality issues there. Harrison seems like a pretty intense guy, and Kyler seems pretty laid back. I'm wondering if they're struggling to gel, and Kyler continues to look for the player that he knows where he'll be, and that's Trey McBride.
Yeah, and I think too with the offensive coordinator. Remember that first week when everybody was criticizing Kyler for not targeting Marvin Harrison more, and he basically threw it back on the offensive coordinator. It's like, hey man, I'm just throwing who they tell me to, So I mean, there could be a little bit of maybe the OC hasn't figured out how to work Harrison into the offense yet, or he's working them in slowly for whatever reason. We see with these wide receivers have been acclimating real quick to the NFL, and Marvin Harrison should be there too. But like for whatever reason, he's not clicking, like Spread said, in this offense. But Spread, let me paint a picture real quick about like a potential Cardinals build here. First, make sure to hit that like button. Looking for 30 likes to put out a shorter video later on, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. Looking for 1,100 subscribers. You need about 40 left to get there, and you're going to want to subscribe to get the alerts for when the shorter videos come out or when the other videos come out in general. And Spread, if we're looking at this situation with the Chargers, I'm seeing a ton of injuries, right? We got Joey Bosa is doubtful on the
always
defense.
I mean, can we just right?
Yeah. Right. But we got like defensive back Dean Leonard is doubtful with a hamstring. Asante Samuel's on IR. Jasir Taylor is on IR too. So we got like a banged up defense that we're talking about here. If we wanted to, let's take that zone coverage nugget that I just threw out there. Let's put Trey McBride in the captain tonight, anticipating that they're going to need to throw the ball a lot tonight. We're going to go with Spread's thinking that the Chargers are going to be playing with the lead. I'm going to put Dobbins in there, right? I'm going to put in Kyler Murray too. Another advantage that we get with Trey McBride, I just talked about how I don't want to get those captains that are 10+% owned. Trey McBride is lesser owned than Marvin Harrison, even though Marvin Harrison has seemingly done. It seems like he's done a lot less. He actually has the same fantasy points per game, just about. McBride is ahead of him, 12.2 to 12 points per game.
It's because of that one blow up game, right?
Yeah.
Where I mean, I think I can't remember. He might have been wide receiver 1 that week too.
Oh, you're talking about, Harrison had that 130-point game against the Rams. So that's why, like Harrison, his points per game are up there. But McBride has been more consistent. If you look at his output, so I can see McBride as being a PPR captain. Now we know with the Chargers are going to throw the ball very, very as little as possible, that they get away with a win. But I could see us putting in. Let's go back to Simi Fehoko. Let's get him in there, and then let's put let's give a double stack maybe for Murray. They're playing from behind here, so I'm gonna put
Wilson.
I was gonna put like Harrison in there, like as just to see what we have here. We have the Cardinals defense.
If you put Harrison in there, you drop down to 4-2.
Kind of restrictive.
So, I mean, see, this is what sucks about where we landed. Normally, I would say, hey, we're building a Cardinals victory script, right?
Yeah.
I just don't think that the Cardinals defense is going to pay off because I don't think they get turnovers. And we know for these defenses to pay off, right, Simon? They need to get turnover. The day that the defenses are in the winning lineup is when they get a turnover, multiple sacks, multiple turnovers, or a pick six, right? A turnover and a touchdown can be enough, especially, at only 3,400. It's a little lower than usual for the Cardinals tonight. I just don't see them getting a lot of turnovers. One thing that Harbaugh has done, he's turned Herbert into a game manager. The film that we watched under Brandon Staley and Herbert is slinging the ball down the field. And this is why everyone loved him from a scouting perspective. Throws a beautiful deep ball, can push it down the field, will sit in the pocket. Harbaugh's not letting him do that. And maybe that's some recognition that, hey, we don't have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams anymore. I don't want Lad McConkey or these other guys going up in these one-on-one situations here. So that's why I struggle in this build landing on the Cardinals.
Oh, yeah. No, I wouldn't start the Cardinals defense.
I don't think Trey Benson's going to play. So DeMarcado, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
Well, I'm left with 6,400 because I ended up taking out Harrison and putting in McConkey.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at Harrison. Yeah. Instead of putting in McConkey, let's put in Wilson at 6,600. And then we got 3 Cardinals and 2 Chargers, and we can put a lot of fun people in there.
Yeah, we got a lot of options.
Palmer, you can put in Zay Jones, who could get there with 3 touches, the explosive way he plays. And then, of course, we've already talked about the kickers and the Chargers defense, which I think not in this script, but, I like the Chargers defense. Maybe in this script that the Chargers are getting shut down in the red zone. And Dicker's a good one to end up with, but
I like this one too, spread, because I think I lean more towards that Chargers defense you just talked about. This way we have the story that I could see this becoming is Dobbins is the Chargers have maybe moved the ball with Fehoko. Dobbins is converting on touchdowns. And then the Chargers defense, maybe they get like a turnover or something like that. And then the Arizona side is doing, pick six for the Chargers defense. And then on the Arizona side, Murray is throwing to McBride and Wilson trying to catch up. And the Chargers defense justified too, because they've been able to shut down Harrison, which is why we don't see Harrison in this lineup. You know?
Yeah.
Or one thing that we could do, if we put in the Chargers defense and we want to make it like a 4-2, we're able to put in McConkey in this build too. And I like McConkey because the Cardinals are giving up 16.8 points a game to the slot position. So if we put McConkey in there, we're left with money on the table. We still have money on the table. You can swap over. If we put McConkey in there and you wanted to swap Fehoko to someone else, you got Disley as an option. Take it or leave it there. The one thing with Disley is Hurst is out, and the other tight ends on the team, they don't do any. They're mainly blockers. So Disley's really the only other receiving tight end that they have left. So that makes Disley interesting tonight. Other than that, I think Disley would be the only option I'd go to in that situation. Disley or Simi Fehoko are the only guys that I think I like in this range. What do you think their spread?
Yeah, I agree with you. We probably should have mentioned Disley earlier because at that low price tag, it's not going to take much for him to pay off.
Right. And keep in mind with Greg Roman, he comes from the Baltimore offense, an offense where they like to pass to the tight end a lot. Disley is not have a very big ADOT, but he does get targets. We saw 5 targets, 3 targets, 3 targets, 3 targets. Let's see what Hurst was getting as far as targets. He had 3 targets, 2 targets. So if you add a couple targets onto what Disley was getting, we could be talking about 5 targets for 2,800 for him. And you can see it doesn't have a huge output, but he hasn't had a touchdown either. So if you add a touchdown onto this, you're paying 2,800 for about 12 points tonight.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah. So,
all right, Simon, indulge me with one more here.
Yeah.
Because we talked about ways to get different. So what I just entered the one we were talking about. Let me pull this right back up. So I know this sounds crazy, Simon, and for the people viewing, if you're only single bulletin, you can go ahead and stop the video now, but I think this is a great multi-entry. Give me some Josh Palmer at captain, Simon.
Okay.
He's a very good receiver, especially if McConkey ends up sitting. You don't need to change it later. And I wouldn't be surprised if he were to have a big night at this price tag with him at captain. We just see him get in the end zone, and he has yet to do that so far this year. So I understand that can be a struggle. But let's just say McConkey sits, and that's kind of the build I'm going for here. I think Palmer's got a great chance. And the reason I like this build, Simon, look how much money we have left. We're still at 41 for our last 5. So indulge me here. We put Palmer in captain. I think Kyler, I'm going to play in almost every lineup tonight. So let's throw him in there. Who else do we want if we start here? We're at 31K left. So we got lots of options.
I think if you got Palmer in there, he's got to be putting up volume. So Herbert might be the good guy to tag in with him.
Yeah, and see the cool thing about this is with Palmer at captain, I can go Murray, Dobbins, Herbert, and I still have 12K left for my last 2 spots.
Yeah, Dobbins. I think Dobbins is the guy that I think we want to have at least flex, like in most of our lineups tonight. Even if you're trying to get different.
Well, I love this build because here you can go even, right? You can grab, like a Dortch, Chargers defense, grab both kickers, Chargers defense and a kicker. You could still put Wilson in here with the defense, or you could go back to Fehoko or Chark and grab a Harrison, Connor, or McBride.
Yeah, I think I like that direction.
You have so many different options when you start with these 4.
Yeah, for sure. I like any of these builds. Fehoko is a nice little skeleton key for tonight.
Simon, the more we're building these, doesn't it feel like the Harrison McBride one is going to be the one that really? I mean, of course, both could go off, but I feel like
decision point.
Yeah, I almost want to just take a stand and go with one or the other.
Yeah.
Because it feels like with all our builds, it comes down to which one do I want here, Harrison and McBride.
Right. And I think with their I'll give you an idea
or
of the
Connor even.
For Harrison, we're looking at a combined ownership of 34. With McBride, we're looking at 38. Both of them are about 7% in the captain. If I was looking for a tiebreaker, I'd go with that zone coverage nugget. Percentage of targets that Trey McBride's getting against zone coverage. But also I'd look at like the Chargers points per game. As far as the tight end position, they're allowing 11.8 DraftKings points a game. As far as the wideouts, they're allowing only 15 DraftKings points a game. And we've seen it, like, for whatever reason, like Harrison has not been clicking with the offense like we're talking about. The ownership is balanced between those two guys. I don't think you can really go wrong either way, but if you wanted to take a stand, I might lean towards McBride with those other nuggets. What do you think there, Spread?
I agree. I think that you need to balance your exposure, especially if you're going to do what I do. And I'm going to have at least 10 different unique entries tonight. But if I was going to single bullet, I think I would choose McBride over Harrison.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the gist of what you want to take away from this show is, Dobbins is going to be the most popular captain, and he's justified. We got Gus Edwards out, and we got an Arizona defense that's been allowing 23 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. So it's a decent matchup for them. And we know, like, the Chargers are going to want to run the ball throughout this game. The offensive line is shored up too. They got Slater and Alt both back. So, it's all signs are looking up for Dobbins. But if you wanted to get different, I think you tell a story where, somebody beats him out in the captain. And this game has plenty of other options, like guys like Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison, which are all going to be under 10%. And, like Murray's going to have a decent amount of ownership on him. If we're looking at Murray, I'm seeing about 16% in the captain. So there are options to get away from Dobbins if you don't want to be that chalky. But keep in mind that he's probably the optimal captain tonight in general.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Simon, this is going to be a fun game for tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. I did not do my research on the other game, but hey, I want a little action. Will you be putting out a show dealing with the Ravens and the Buccaneers?
Yep, got a show for that one. It's going to be coming out a little bit after I release this one. And I'm going to have a 2-game slate show too. I'm going to record those like right after this. So I should have them up, within a couple hours. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and sign up for those alerts so that you get a heads up on that. And Spread, where can they check out your rest of your content on this day's slate?
All right. That's good to hear, Simon, because I'll be looking forward to that, and that'll give me something to have in my headphones while I'm getting a quick weightlifting in beforehand, because as fun as this is, guys, we always have a balanced life. We got to try and be healthy, eat right, so we can continue to live long and play showdown slates into our 80s and 90s. And you can find me on X at Spread a Stare.
Great. Good stuff, Spread. Thanks for joining me. And thanks, guys, for watching. And, keep an eye out for the next show. Should be coming out shortly. And good luck, everybody.